Hello, it's Michael Watts here, and welcome to episode 11 of Life on the Fretboard, and this one really does go up to 11. This is a conversation that I have been hoping would happen for some time, and I'm very happy to share it with you now, with the kind sponsorship of Guitar Tech Academy, more of which later. My guest for this episode is an actual, bona fide, proper rock star, a veritable lord of the Les Paul, a Mariscal of the Marshall stack, and, quite frankly, just a really lovely dude whose playing has shaken the foundations of stadiums around the world and been part of the soundtrack of our lives for decades. You'll know his work on songs like Boys Are Back in Town, Emerald, and Dancing in the Moonlight, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Let me introduce you. Scott Gorham shot to worldwide prominence with the legendary rock band Thin Lizzy, creating what would become known subsequently as the twin guitar attack, a harmonised lead guitar style developed alongside players such as Brian Robertson and Gary Moore, which drove home the larger-than-life persona of frontman and bass player Phil Lynott. Now, at the height of their powers, Thin Lizzy were a world-straddling colossus of a band, hard-rocking for sure, but real songwriters too, and just incredible live. I caught up with Scott at what used to be Olympic recording studios in Barnes. Led Zeppelin, Queen, Lizzy, Paul McCartney, they all made records there back in the day. Now it's a cinema complex and a restaurant with a private members club hidden away for those in the know, and that's where we were. We talk about Scott's early exposure to the guitar and live music, his relocation from California to London, and an audition for Thin Lizzy, which I suspect would have broken most of us. We also discuss the Gibson Les Paul and its iconography, in particular the heavily supervised shopping trip for the Mini Humbucker Deluxe model, with which Scott has become synonymous. We go deep on the semantics of scratch plates, amplifiers the size of a family SUV, and what happens when your guitar gets famous without you. But it wasn't all gold tops, champagne and caviar. Life in Thin Lizzy could be tempestuous, and Scott is candid about the darker times, including how golf helped with the pain of recovery from addiction. Hey, if it works, right? We talk in depth about Scott's secret double life as a visual artist, discuss two of the rarest materials in the universe, and share a fond hope that benevolent, extraterrestrial life might just have our backs after all. Be advised, the language does get a little fruity as we progress. I think I probably started it, to be honest. It doesn't get too awful, but listeners with delicate sensibilities and the under fives should proceed with caution. Let's go. Well, Scott, we are rolling now.
Oh my God, we're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling. Isn't that terrifying? Is that my phone? It is my phone. Thank you. Yes. There we go.
So forgetful.
So forgetful. Oh, I got excited. I left my phone behind. These things happen. We're in I should tell the audience, we're in a very beautiful private members club hidden in the back of Olympic Studios, what used to be the famous recording studios, where a lot of people recorded, including, of course, Thin Lizzy.
That's right, yeah. We did 3 albums. I know the Who and McCartney, the Rolling Stones have all recorded here. And I couldn't believe when they said we're not going to continue with this being a studio, right? Because really every time you walked in, I've recorded in studios like literally all over the world, but every time you walked into this one, you really felt like you were making an album. Like this is an important thing, right? That's how these studios made you feel. So I was really kind of heartbroken when they were saying, "Yeah, we're not gonna do this any longer. We're gonna turn it into a cinema." It's like what? How dare you? As you can imagine, the sound system, I think they've got 3 different cinemas here, and the sound system in each cinema is just amazing. You can't tell where all the sound is coming from. It's complete surround sound and all. It's just beautiful.
Wow. Well, before, obviously, my own forgetfulness interrupted us, I left my phone downstairs, but thankfully I've been reunited with my most pressing piece of technology. We'd gone all the way back to your early years in California. Scott, I want you to think back to the first time you remember seeing a guitar, either on TV or in a movie or in real life?
Sure. Being from California and just America in general, there was music all the time on television and the radio, right? But the big thing on TV at that point, I'm going back to the 50s, it was country and western, right? Lots of violins, fiddles, steel guitars, more acoustic guitars really than electric, and the drums and all that, right? So, and lots of harmonies, tons of harmonies in country music, and I think really through all those years that really seeped in to me, subliminally, and I probably really didn't even know that was happening, right? But the first band I ever saw, I was 13 years old in junior high school, right? Irving Junior High in Glendale. There was a dance at the YMCA.
Very good.
And the band that was playing was the Original Continentals, right? And I'm thinking, if you're the original, why do you have to put the word original in front of it? What's all that about, right? But I was excited. I mean, I saw the cymbals on the drum stands, and I saw the guitars on their guitar stands, and I thought, oh my God, these guys are going to play live. How amazing. And I went straight up to the front of the stage, and this is supposed to be a dance. I didn't dance one time. I just sat there hypnotized watching these guys in what, to my mind, this 13-year-old mind, was such coordinated moves. It seemed like everybody knew it, everybody else was doing, and of course you do. I mean, that's what rehearsal's all about, right? But I didn't know that back then. It just seemed almost like magic.
Like it just happened.
Yeah. So a couple of my friends were also at that dance, and they got as excited as I got. And the next day at school, 4 of us got together and said, man, we need to start a band. And Steve Schrage, right, he was the guitar player, goes, okay, I play guitar. And the other guy's going, okay, well, I'll play rhythm guitar. And I'm going, And Jim Turner, he was the drummer because he played, I guess, the snare drum in the school band, right? So he was the drummer. And I'm going, well, what am I going to play, right? And Steve, being almost kind of the learned player of the bunch, said, well, you can play bass, right? Yeah, great. What's a bass? I had no idea what he was talking about, right? He goes, well, it's forced that you hold down the whole bottom end of the song. I thought, all right, cool. And my mom took me down to the local music store, and we rented a bass guitar. I can't remember the brand name, and this this little purple amp that was supposed to be a bass amp. We used to call it the Purple Monster, right? And that's how I got into music, right? I had no idea what I was doing at all, right? I mean, they would go, okay, well, let's start an A, and I would probably be on E or G or something and just pounding away. And Steve would go, no, and he showed me, the names of the strings, the frets and where they go. So he was actually kind of my first music teacher, right? And I caught on to the fundamentals pretty quickly, right? I knew where to put my hands, A to G and all that. And he finally said, listen, I'm going to teach you a bass line, right? And this is going to be really cool. So he taught me, right? It doesn't get any more basic than that. And I'm telling you, Michael, I played that bass line on every single song, right? Because I knew how to play a bass line. But I soon, got a little bit better, and I branched out a little bit, so... But that was the actual beginnings. That was a bit of a long explanation.
No, I'd love to know, please, man. If there's any situation in which you want to stretch out, this is the perfect.
All right, you can edit it down. And, we'll get rid of that fat.
I'll do no such thing.
All right, I'm warning you.
One of the themes that I've explored with other musicians is moving from one country to another, finding a home in a new place at a formative time in your life. And in 1971 you moved from the USA to London.
That's right. A big move for me. Big move. And it was kind of strange how we have it, because my best friend, and still is, Bob Siegenberg, who's the drummer for Supertramp, not then, obviously, he was going steady with my sister, right? And my sister went on a school trip to London. And I thought, damn, because Bob and I, that was our big dream, was going to London. That's where the Beatles, the Stones, all these guys came from London, right? Or at least that country. But she went over. It was supposed to be a 2-week thing. And at the end of the 2 weeks, she was not on the airplane. She stayed, right? And she's, I think, 18 years old at this time, right? And Bob and I are looking at each other like, are you kidding? My little sister is the one that's brave enough to do this, and by herself, right? So she finally came back. They got married, and they moved back to London, right? And that just tore me up. You know, my sister, my best friend, now they're in London, the place I always wanted to be in. But I think what happened was after 6 months, being American, you have to go out of the country, right, come back in, get your visa again, right? So you get another 6 months. Well, that's what Bob and Vicky had to do. And Bob stayed with me for about 2 weeks, right? And he had this cassette with him of this band I'd never heard of. He goes, yeah, you know, I just joined this band. You got to listen to this, right? It's stuff that you and I have never played before. I mean, it's all original music. Okay. And he played me the first Supertramp album that he was on, and I was like dumbfounded. I thought, oh my God, man, this is really sophisticated stuff, like way beyond anything that we were doing. We were doing like 3 chords and blues and a little bit of rock here and all that, right? But this was, you know, another caliber altogether, right? And after the tape gets finished, he goes, you know, Roger Hodgson, who's the guitar player, right now he's playing guitar and keyboards. And for the album, or just for the rest of time, he doesn't know if he wants to do both. He might just play guitar or just play keyboards. And I think he's tending to go for the keyboards, right? So if you can get your ass over to England, right, you know, I might be able to finagle your way into this band, right? Which is something we used to do all the time. Right. You know, I would go in for an audition with some group of guys, and I'd go to whoever the lead guy was, right? I go, listen, you know, your drummer actually kind of sucks. You know, I know a guy that's way better than this. We got to get him in. And he would do the same thing. Your guitar player doesn't even know how to tune his guitar, man. I know a guy. You know, it was a system that we had, right? So I think Bobby was thinking that this is going to happen again. You know, your guitar player. Well, I don't mean you suck, Roger, but you know, right? But
it sounds so much better on keys.
Right. We need the keyboards more than the guitar. But as it happened, it took me quite a while to work up the money for a plane ticket.
Sure.
Right? So this is like maybe 3 months, 4 months later. And I finally make it over, and Bob's still dangling that carrot in front of me. But when I landed, he picked me up and said, I got some bad news. Roger has decided he's going to do both, right?
Oh, Roger.
I thought, you dirty nunk. Wait till I catch up to you. But I've since always thought that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to go out and start introducing myself to other musicians. Now, back then, 74 was the pub circuit, right? It was huge.
So you actually cut your teeth in London?
Absolutely, right? It was, and the pub circuit was the way to go. Every single pub you walked into had a stage on it, right? Yeah. So I would force myself, which is something I just never did. Hey, can I get up there and jam with you guys? Which is something I would never do in Los Angeles. But I thought, my visa is going to last for so long, I got to do this, right? And through that, I started meeting this guy and that guy, the drummer here, a bass player there, this guy who sings and plays keyboards, to the point where we actually started our own band. The card that I always played. I know it was kind of dirty, right? But I would walk in and kind of make my American accent a little bit stronger, you know. And I got an American band here, you know. One guy's from Arizona, which he wasn't. You know, another guy from Dallas, which he wasn't. You know, another New York guy. You know, I made all this shit up, right? And the pub owners would go, "Oh, hell yeah, an American band, absolutely," right?
You can't be a prophet in your own village when you're probably exhausted.
So we were working 5 days a week, you know, through just the bullshit, right? And the other thing I used to do was I'd get on the mic at a certain point of the night on these gig nights, and I knew there was a lot of musicians in the audience, right, who didn't have a band to play with, or they had no outlet to actually show their wares. So I got on the mic and said, "All right, you know, I know there's a fair few musicians out here. Now we're going to be here next Wednesday. Now, if you have a guitar, or you play bass, or you want to get up and sing a song, play the drums even, and all the rest of the guys in my band, they were okay with it, right? Because they could go off and order a beer and have a little bit of a break, right? And through that, you know, I really did. I met quite a few guys. I had no idea that there were so many people in the audience that were just horny to get up on the stage, right? But one of the guys that did get up with me, and it was really kind of fateful, was a guy named Ruan O'Loughlin, Irish gentleman, right? And he played keyboards and saxophone, right? He says, you know, I really like your guitar playing, right? And I know this band who have had some success, and they're looking for another player, you know. Do you want me to drop your name in there to go down and have a jam with them, right? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Now I've got 30 days on my visa, right? If I don't get something going now, I'm pretty well cooked, right? So I said, oh, hell yeah. I said, well, by the way, what's the name of this band? And he goes, well, like I say, it's an Irish band, and it's called Thin Lizzy. And I looked at him and went, Thin Lizzy? What the hell kind of name is that, you know? You know, at least it could have been like thick something or other, but thin sounded so weedy at the time, right? And so he goes, yeah, and the guy you're going to meet down there is a guy named Phil, right? And I said, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So on the appointed day, I make my way down, take the train down with my little shitty guitar, and I walk into this. It's a restaurant. It's called the Iroko Club, but it's an African restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember walking down this kind of long, dark hallway, and at the end of it, I see all these, these black guys, and they're wearing, brightly colored flowered shirts and white trousers with, brass buckles on their belts and all that, white shoes. Wow, okay.
It's a strong look.
African dinner club. I have no idea what was on the menu, right? And as I'm thinking all this, this voice comes out from my right and goes, "Are you Scott?" And I turn around, and there was this black guy standing in front of me, right, with an Irish accent. And I'm like, okay, black Irish accent. I'm totally confused now, So I said, yeah, I'm Scott. He goes, oh, great, man, I'm Phil. I went, God, really? You're what? And we shook hands, and he had the biggest grin on his face, right? Which was very cool. Very welcoming, so I felt a little bit more, maybe this will be okay, right? So he goes, let me, and I thought Phil, the black guy, was going to be the guy from the restaurant who was going to tell me where the Phil guy was, right? And what room they were in, right? So now I got Phil taking me into the rehearsal room. He goes, I'll introduce you to the other guys, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So as we're walking in, Phil goes, hey guys, this is Scott here. Say hi to him. And they both looked up and he went, yeah, hi. And then I looked down, and I thought, okay, wow, maybe this isn't going to go the way I thought it was going to go. They were totally disinterested in this other guy coming in. So we get up on stage, and Phil said, hey, man, take your guitar out. I went, yeah, okay, great. And as soon as I opened up the guitar case, Brian Robertson, the other guitar player, went, you got to be joking me, right?
Oh.
Because it was a Japanese Les Paul copy, right, with no name on the headstock. I mean, the Japanese people that made this guitar were so embarrassed about it, they didn't even put their name on it, right? So, because I ran out of money and I had to sell my Stratocaster, which I sold to Roger Hodgson for Supertramp, and all those lead guitar lines and lines that you hear on a Supertramp album, that's my guitar that I sold to Roger, right? You dirty note. And I think I sold it to him for this measly price of 125 pounds. Right?
Oh, God, well,
yeah, even back then, that was ridiculously cheap.
Oh,
so we get up on stage and I pull the guitar out, embarrassed now, and Phil says, okay, Robbo, T. Scott, blah, blah, blah song, okay. And he just blitzes through the chords. I mean, bang, 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 okay, yeah, you got, okay, here comes the chorus, bang, 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 bang. You got that? You want to go through that one more time? Okay, bang, 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 bang. And I've got, okay, I think I got that, right? So Downey 1, 2, 3, 4's it in, right? And I'm beaming in on, zeroed in on Brian Robertson's guitar neck. And I'm just watching his hands. And whenever he made a move, I made a move, split second later, split second later, split second later, all the way through the song. Just barely got through this, right? And Phil turned around, yeah, that was pretty good, right? Hey, Brad, teach him another song. Okay, bang, bang, bang. And this went on for like 5 songs or so. Each time we finished a song, Phil would jump off the stage, no explanation, and then come back 5 minutes later. And I thought, okay, this guy just doesn't like my playing. He's taking a break and going getting a drink or something or other, right? So it comes to the end of the audition, and Phil says, you might as well give me your telephone number. And I thought, okay. And he rips off the tiniest bit of little paper you can imagine and writes my telephone number on it. I'm thinking, well, you're not going to lose that, are you? That's
there for life.
Jeez, right? And I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm done. I'm cooked. I got to hopefully find something else. And as I'm walking out, Phil pipes up and says, so Scott, what are you doing tomorrow? And that's when I'm like, well, maybe I am in with a chance. And that night around 10 o'clock, he called me and said, well, we've all been listening to the tapes. I went, the tapes?
Right, okay.
That's why he kept jumping off the stage, was to make sure that Pete, our sound engineer, was getting it down correctly, or if we had to do it again, right? So he goes, yeah, we've all been listening to the tapes, and we all agree that you're the guy. So what do you think? Did you like what you hear today? You want to be in Thin Lizzy? And I couldn't get the word yes out quick enough. Because as soon as I heard these guys play, I wanted in this thing called Thin Lizzy. I wanted in this, right? Because these guys are really good players. And I'm going to learn a hell of a lot by just hanging out with these guys, right? So, yeah, like I said, I couldn't get yes out of my mouth quick enough. That was 1974.
In her genre-defining novel Pride, Prejudice and Pickguards, Jane Austen offered the following observation. It is a truth, universally acknowledged, that a musician in possession of a cool guitar could still benefit from learning how to set the thing up properly. And I'm sure we can all relate to that, as can the growing crowds of well-intonated and low-actioned, but without any buzz, online students of Guitar Tech Academy, including technicians for Coldplay, Deep Purple and Robbie Williams, amongst others. Founded by British luthier James Collins, himself a graduate of the prestigious Gallup School of Guitar Making in Michigan and an accredited repair technician for Gibson guitars for over a decade now, Guitar Tech Academy offers an online archive of instructional videos covering the maintenance and setup of just about every modern guitar design, from the wraparound bridge of a 54 Gold Top to that fiddly floaty number you find on a Jazzmaster, Bigsby's, Strat and Telly bridges, acoustics and arch tops too. It's all there. James will guide you through the theory and practice of setting up your guitar for your playing. Follow the link in the description for this episode and sign up today. You will never have sounded better.
You want me to get closer to the mic, or am I okay where I am?
You're fine where you are.
Phil and I did an interview in, where was it? In Arizona. And we walked in, and for an hour and a half, we gave the the greatest interview ever. I mean, the spontaneity and the jokes that we were cracking, and we were all laughing. The DJ's on the floor laughing. We're just having a great time. And the engineer goes, you want to hold on a second, right? And he checks he goes, yeah, I think we're going to have to do that again. I forgot to press the record button. Oh. So now it's like sound check time. We got to get out of there, right? So we did the best we could in 15 minutes after that.
Yeah, well, I would never put you through that. You know.
No, I'm just saying, it's one of those things that when you're out doing, radio and TV and all that, these things do happen.
Well, let's talk about Les Pauls.
Let's talk about chicks.
that can be episode 2.
Les Pauls, yeah,
Les Pauls.
That guitar was going to be my all-time favorite, no matter what. Yeah, I did have a Stratocaster when I came over to England, but I even had that shitty little Japanese Les Paul just because I loved the shape.
Right.
To me, that was always the shape. It's like the shape of a woman. It's got the curves, right? It's a real sexy looking guitar, and I loved the way it sounded and the way it felt hanging around your neck, right? So after that audition and I got the gig, the first thing that Phil says is, we're going to have to get you a proper guitar, right? and I almost wanted to say, thank you, thank God, And he and I went down to, there's a street in inner London there that's just filled with guitar shops.
Denmark Street.
There you go. Yeah. He and I went down. He had a specific number that he could spend.
Right.
This isn't going to be a blank check kind of thing, right? Which I didn't know, right? So he goes, okay, well, hey, man, check out, see which ones one of these guitars you really fancy. And the first thing I did was walk up to a Les Paul Standard with the humbucker pickups, and I put my hand on it, pulled it up, and I saw Phil shake his head going, no, okay. And I put it on another one, but you went, no. So then I went to the guitar that we actually bought, which was the Les Paul Deluxe.
Yes, indeed.
Right, with the little small humbuckers on there, right?
Beautiful.
It really wasn't what I wanted, but it's all the band could afford.
Well, you became synonymous with that.
I know.
People talk about the Deluxe, it's always you people.
No, and Gibson always wanted to do a copy of that and all that. I'm going, no. You want to do my '57 Les Paul Standard, not the Deluxe. But there's so many pictures of me with that red guitar.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's an iconic look. I mean, my understanding is, this may just be hearsay, is that a lot of the Deluxes were made from original parts from the 50s. Because obviously the Les Paul, in its initial launch, was not particularly popular. It took people like Eric Clapton and Peter Green winding the thing up through a Marshall amp to really show the instrument's capabilities. And then when Gibson launched the SG, people were Les Paul himself was completely, disenchanted with that particular shape. I'm personally a slave to it. I love that fucking thing.
I'm with you all the way on that. Really what I should have done is, after maybe a couple of years, taken that guitar and carved out the pickup placements and slapped a couple of humbuckers in there.
That would have been sacrilege.
Oh, I know, but who gives a shit? You're going for the sound, right?
But those mini humbuckers gave you, and by extension Thin Lizzy, a completely unique sound. There was a dynamism to your playing. There was shades, especially in the way that you reacted with other players. There was light and shade in there that you might not have had with, if everybody wearing paths.
Well, yeah, you're right about that, but I think a lot of that you're listening to is that 1957. I mean, Live and Dangerous, yeah, it was the Deluxe, all the way on that one, right? But I think it was 1977. We were in Boston. I can't remember the place we were playing, some theater somewhere. And this guy had walked in, and he had 6 guitar cases with him. And he laid them all out. Nobody asked him to do this. He just laid them all out, flipped the lids, and said, well, if you want to try any of these out, be my guest, right? And I beamed straight onto the one that I eventually bought, right? And I picked this thing up, and the shape of the neck was perfect. The weight of the guitar was perfect, right? Then I plugged it in, and the sound for my ears was just magnificent. I just fell in love with this, right? And I looked at Phil, and he went, "Yeah, man, all right."
All right, yeah, the Phil seal of
And I
approval.
looked at a couple of the road crew guys, and they're going the thumbs up kind of deal. I'm going, "Yeah, shit, yeah." My mistake was I got on the microphone to Pete, our sound guy, right? You got to remember, the guy who's selling it is in the orchestra pit right below me, right? I said, "Hey, Pete, what do you think of this guitar? How's it sound?" He goes, and all he said was, "Buy it," right? And I looked at Pete, and then I looked down at the guy selling it, and the guy was, all right. I made a sale. So now I have no room to negotiate, right? And I asked him, how much is this guitar? And he said, well, it's $2,300, right? I thought, shit, $2,300. I'd never heard of any guitar sell it at that point, 1977. $2,300, right? But I needed this guitar. I really needed it. So we buy it. Everything's fine. I use it for the rest of the tour. I'm so in love with this guitar. It's like stupid. I nearly took it to bed with me every night, right? But we get to Heathrow Airport, and once again, the customs guy, I don't know what happened here, but he got all of our guitar cases and once flipped all the lids open, and he went right to that guitar, right to my guitar, right? He goes, wow, what a beautiful looking guitar, right? Who owns that? And I'll proudly went, well, that's me, sir. Yeah, that's my guitar. He goes, really, man, this is beautiful. How much did you pay for it? And I said, $2,300. And he goes, really? It says on the carnet here, $600. Crash, down goes the lid. He goes, I own this now.
No.
So we had to go to court there in Heathrow Airport. Have you ever heard of anybody going to court at Heathrow Airport?
I have not.
Neither have I now. But we were in such shock that we did this, And I don't know if you remember this. You look pretty young, right? But back in the 70s and up to the mid 80s, Heathrow was known as Thief Row.
Oh, was it really?
Because you've heard that, yeah?
I haven't.
Oh, yeah. Because the people handling the baggages and all that would unzip people's baggages, rummage through there really quickly, grab anything, go zip it back up. So I'm thinking this crew, this court crew, was probably part of this whole sham system here, right? And now I feel really embarrassed about that because they got a lot of money from us. Those bastards.
Going back briefly to the iconic outline of the Les Paul and the semantics of scratch plate. So you had removed the scratch plate from the deluxe, and it was a really cool look. Was that something that you went for deliberately, or it just happened?
Well, that happened at the audition with the boys, right? I'm telling you this, the Japanese guitar was such a piece of shit that screws were falling out, the scratch plate was just dangling, swishing back and forth, and I'm going, oh my God, and we're all on our knees looking for the screw, and I said, oh, to hell with it, and I just ripped the scratch plate off, right? And later on that day, when I saw it on the guitar stand, I looked at it and went, actually, that's a really beautiful look, because it was up. Yeah. He was standing, next to Robbo's guitar, who always had the scratch plate. And I thought, that's a much leaner, cooler look with no scratch plate on it. And every Les Paul I had after that never had a scratch plate on it.
You did a lot of your professional playing at a time when, if you didn't have to reach over your head to adjust the controls, then your amplifier was too small.
Oh, I was wondering where you're going with that, right? Yeah. We used to call them refrigerators.
Really?
Yeah. Just packed with all,
what was the biggest rig you operated?
Oh, it was about maybe that tall.
For the benefit of the listener, at this point, Scott is indicating dimensions approximately the same as the wall of the room that we're in.
Like that wide, with almost every conceivable effect that I could possibly get in there, right? Now, that's all fine and great, for a while, until one tiny little wire goes astray and your whole rig goes down.
Right.
And your guitar tech goes, I don't even know where to start. Oh my God, right? And the other problem with that is the effects really start squashing your original sound. It becomes more of the effect than it does the actual guitar sound, right? So after one of these tours that we were doing, and I'm feeling more and more unhappy with, all these effects going on my guitar, I said, something, I'm gonna get rid of the refrigerator, right? I'm gonna one pedal, delay, right? The wah-wah, and probably a bit of chorus, and then that's it. Oh yeah, I need a tuner also.
Right, in the early days, this was pre the invention of the pedal tuner, right?
That, to me, was the greatest invention ever invented for live music. The amount of argument that me and Phil used to get in, because he'd be going, okay, and the next song is, and we'd go ding, 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 ding. And he was going, man, I can't introduce songs while you guys are tuning up. I said, well, Phil, there's no way that we're going to play these fucking songs out of tune. It's not going to happen, right? All the time we had this argument, right? And so finally, the Strobo tuner came in.
Peterson.
Which was a pain in the ass, but it was a tuner, right?
Yep.
Great. And then they finally, elevated the whole thing to just the box on the floor. So you can just look down, you've got your bypass button, so nobody's hearing anything. You can go ahead and introduce the song. I'm going to be happily over here tuning my guitar, right? So it eliminated all arguments after shows, so yeah, I'm with you on that. It was great.
Oh, fantastic. One particular performance that I've been watching kind of on a loop for the past week or so since we arranged this chat, and it's a tribute to Phil, where you play Rashined Up with Gary Moore.
Oh yeah.
And I find that an incredibly moving performance.
Thank you.
There's a joy there and a love that you so rarely see.
Yeah, that was... Gary had been, for a few years prior to that, been trying to apologize to me about him leaving the American tour that he's on with us, right? And Phil was furious with Gary, right? But he forgave him a little sooner than I did, right? It took me longer to forgive Gary for doing that. But, I met him at a studio one day, and because he wanted me to come down and play something on it, and we sat down and he explained comprehensively, why he did it and how wrong he was. He should have never done that, blah, blah, blah. So, all right, shake hands, big hug, it's over, water under the bridge. And then we went and did a couple of months later, we did the Phil Lynott tribute. And I had a blast playing with Gary again, because I always did. To me, he really was one of the greatest players on the planet at that time. Maybe he still is, I don't know. But it was just, pure joy for me to watch some of the stuff that he could do, right? And the other thing, he would take a solo of mine and he would learn it and play it to me, right? I'm going, really, man? I'm not sure how to take this, how easy my solos were, and you could just whip it up like that. He goes, no, I really love how you put all these different things together. It's really cool. So he and I, in the end, or even towards the end, he and I got on great with each other. I'm glad that we did that to wash all that crap away. That we tried to make it feel like it didn't happen.
It's a beautiful thing.
But unfortunately it did. Damn you, Gary. No.
Well, let's face it, in terms of personnel changes and external and internal pressures, Thin Lizzy went through a hell of a lot.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah, I really did.
I would turn up rehearsal and go, is there anybody on the right-hand side today? Yeah, it was kind of musical chairs on the right-hand side for a number of years. And I think the only reason why we survived is because of the songs themselves. And each new guy that came in, we put the onus squarely on him. The spotlight is on you, pal. You're here for a reason. Let's see what you got, right?
It's much the same methodology you'd encountered when you had your audition for Thin Lizzy.
Pretty much. Or, when we did Bad Reputation,
Right.
Because, I was the Lone Ranger on that one, right? And I even had discussions where I said, man, are you sure? I don't know. He goes, Scott, you got this, man. Come on, forget about it. You got it, right? Chris, and the producer was saying the same thing. Just calm. You got this, man. And it turned out to be a really, in my mind, a really great album with great songs of it, right?
Yeah.
And it brought me and Phil and Downey together a lot tighter, also, because now we're a trio, which I'd never been in before, instead of a four-piece. So you got to, get that core really glued together strongly. Yeah, man, we did.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of golf in your life.
Wow, that's a good subject. I started playing golf. I was staying at my brother-in-law and sister's house in Los Angeles for about 3 months because I was also doing some recording over there, and I would stay with them. And Bob would tell me, he goes, yeah, I've just gotten into golf. I looked at him like, golf? You play golf? I don't get that. He goes, yeah, it's great. Come on, we'll go out, right? And we went out. I rented some crappy little clubs, right? And I played terribly, right? But I hit one good shot, and I looked at the ball soaring up, and it landed on the green, 10 feet from the flag, and I went, oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that? And that was the shot that got me into golf, right? But years later, both Phil and I were having a drug problem, a pretty nasty one too. And as I was getting, can I use the word cured?
You can use whatever words you like in this interview.
Well, I use this thing called the black box with Dr. Meg Patterson, right? And it's two, looks like roach clips on wires, and they're attached to a battery, and you put them on your earlobes, believe it or not, and this sends an really light electrical shock through your earlobes into your endorphin gland, right? Because what happens when you're addicted like that, it puts your endorphin gland to sleep. Now, if you don't know what your endorphin gland is, that's your natural opiates. They keep a lot of the pain, natural pain, away from you, right? So when that goes to sleep or it gets put in a coma and you don't have your drug, you're in real problems, right? So I'm going through this thing, and this nurse is staying with me, and he could see that I'm, stomping up and down the hallways, and I'm starting to have a really hard time. He goes, well, wait a minute, do you have like a hobby or something that you do to maybe take your mind off? And I'm going, I have played golf in the past. And he goes, oh, well, let's go do that. Now, it's January, right? And it's kind of practically snowing outside. And I went, yeah, okay. And we get the big duffel jackets on with 3 sweaters and gloves like crazy. And I go down and, I rent some clubs down there. And I sat there for 2 hours just beating balls down this range. And it was only me on this driving range. And Lauren, the guy that's with me, is sitting there freezing to death, but he wants me to do well, and he keeps saying, yeah, that was a good shot. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, keep going. And I realized when I got back in the car after that, for 2 hours, I was not feeling bad. I wasn't feeling the pain as much, right? So next day, hey, Lauren, let's, what do you say we go up and hit some more balls? He's like, yeah, okay. And it's still snowing outside. So I got to hand it to Lauren for hanging in there with me too. The torture of watching me hit golf balls, so I could get away from the pain of it all, But it worked. It really worked. And soon after that, when I came completely off the drugs, I went and bought myself a golf set, golf clubs, and started to play at all these municipal golf courses, around the London area. And I used to get people going, "Hey, aren't you, yeah. You want to play golf? Oh, you want to play with me? Yeah, come on, So it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of strangers at that point. But golf, it really did. It helped me out a lot, So anybody out there who thinks golf is a dumb game, you're wrong. It's a great game.
Now, what no one knew, because he kept it a secret from the world, is that Scott Gorham is an extremely skilled artist, and some of his beautiful, detailed pencil drawings from the Thin Lizzy period have been rediscovered and are now available as fine art prints. He's had his first gallery showing. Look at that, it's going rather well. We're going to talk about all this now, but first I wanted to invite you to visit Scott's website. It's called scottgorhamworld.com. There's a link in the description to this show. Take a look at these exquisite examples of visual, dark poetry for yourselves. Prints are available in different sizes, and hand-signed prints are available too. I'd say get in there quick, quite honestly. Anyway, here we go. Let me lead into this one properly, because this has been on my mind a great deal since you announced the launch of your art collection.
Oh, right.
Drawing. And there is one line from my favourite Thin Lizzy song that keeps coming back to me. It's in Still in Love with You. And it's the line, "I think I'll fall to pieces if I don't find something else to do."
Well, it wasn't quite like that.
Was it a bit less poetic?
No. Because I've been doing these drawings for 40 years, right? And literally kept it a secret from everybody, including my wife.
Right.
She had no idea that I was doing this, right? I think it had to do with, I didn't want criticism or rejection, and I think if I would have got any of that, maybe I would have stopped it all, because confidence would have gone or whatever. So I just kind of kept away from all that. This was for me and me alone. I would draw these pictures, on the road. I would start them on the road, right? And the thing, if I got a knock on the door, I would take the pad and pencils and shove them under the covers of the bed, and then go answer the door to whoever it was, right? Because I didn't want people to go, "Oh yeah, what are you doing there? Oh, well, this is a pile of shit, Oh, thank you very much,
Were you used to experiencing that level of criticism on a daily basis?
I could take it with the guitar. Right. Oh, that was a crap solo. What were you thinking on that day? But with the art, it's something. At least with a band, you're surrounded by 3-4 other people. You got a crew of 10. We can all blame it on each other. The art thing, you're the Lone Ranger. Absolutely. There's nobody you can. Well, it's not my fault. It's my fault. You got to blame it on yourself. So, and I even kept it from my wife, and I feel really bad about that. She only found out about it like 3.5 years ago. Right. I finally said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And she looked at it and she went, "Wow, this is great. Who did this?" And I went, "I did." She goes, "Oh, come on." I went, "No, I did this," right? She goes, "No kidding." She goes, "You got any more?" And yeah. Now this is the first time I opened up my book to anybody, right? And she's flipping through this, and she just can't believe, what she's seeing, and why haven't I told anybody about this? I tried to tell her, like, what we've just been talking about, right? And she got that. She understood, right? But in almost the next sentence, she goes, "Well, we got to do something with this." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" what we got to do. And every time she would say something like that, I would change the subject, get up and walk out of the room, anything, so I didn't have to talk about that. Doing something with this artwork. And I think what happened really with the convincing, I've got a friend, his name is Dennis O'Regan, right? He's a photographer. He used to go out on the road with us. Lots of stuff with, The Who, the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Kiss, all these bands, right? There was something I heard that you could take any picture you have and enlarge it, right? And I thought, I wonder what that would look like on, maybe one of mine, or would it totally ruin it or what, So I brought my stuff over, kind of sheepishly, and I pulled out one, hoping this was going to be the one that was going to be okay with him, And he goes up, said the same thing Christine, my wife, said. She goes, "Oh my God, you got to do something with this." And I'm like, now here's the guy. Now your wife is supposed to say things like that, right? She loves you. She still has to be in the house with you. And of course she's going to say things. But when you hear it from an outside agent and a guy that you really respect, because you look at him as a real artist, he's a real artist with a camera. That made me kind of change my mind right there. Okay, well maybe I'll kind of give it a go here, And that's what he did. He showed me the first time the picture could be blown up and all that. And I was blown away with, what could be done and all that. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning. The next one was Christine was sitting at her laptop, and she goes, "Now, do you know who Jim Fitzpatrick is?" Jim Fitzpatrick did almost all of our album covers.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. Yes.
Right? And I love Jim. I love his artwork. I just so respect that guy. In fact, on album cover day, I was probably one of the first guys down there.
Really?
Because I wanted to hang out with Jim. I wanted to see what he came up with, right? This was a guy, you would give him a word, and he would draw 3 pictures, and they're all great pictures, right? So she says on the stage, she goes, "Yeah, I've got a Zoom call with Jim, and I'm going to show him your artwork." I went, "No, wait a minute, oh. And I said, I can't be in the room. I just can't do it, right?" And I'm sounding like a real coward now, aren't I? But I just couldn't stay in the room while Jim was looking at this and critiquing it, right?
You must have felt very vulnerable.
Absolutely, because this guy is an actual artist,
Well, so are you.
So I go out of the room, I go up to the bedroom, and in the fetal position, shaking, sweating. And after the Zoom call, she come up, she goes, "Well, Jim thought the stuff was amazing. He thought it was incredible. He did not expect that out of you at all," right?
Wow.
So that was another guy that got my confidence going. To hear, praise like that from these two guys who I really respect for what they do, it made me kind of sit up a little more and take a little bit more pride in myself and what I'm doing. So that's that.
The subject matter, Scott, and the way that you have expressed the ideas, I'd like to look at obviously it's a podcast, it's not a visual medium,
right?
But I'm going to stick a picture in the description to this. In fact, what I'm going to do better than that, I'm going to stick a link back to your website so that
Be interested to see which one you pick out.
Well, I've got 3 I'd like to talk about. Pain is the first one.
Pain. Well, I was inflicted with this condition called cluster headaches.
Oh.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with that, these are like the absolute granddaddies of the migraine, right? And you don't just get a headache and it's gone in an hour. These stay with you 3, 4, and 5 hours. And it feels like somebody's driving a metal spike into your eye or the back of your head, or it's terrible stuff. And once you get these headaches, they can last for like 2 months every day, right? So as soon as I came out of like the last bout of this, I just started drawing this picture about what I must look like going through this, right? And that's why you see, a bone going through the right eye, because that was the eye that was always infected, affected. bone going through an ear, and your skin, I got it all bubbling up because you feel like you're just looking terrible at this point, right? So that's just kind of my impression of kind of what I was going through and what I felt during these bouts.
Well, the imagery is particularly powerful, almost on a sort of body horror level, It reminds me of a lot of your work reminds me of Geiger, Escher, Dali.
I've heard people say that too, and I'm just like, no, those guys are like the masters,
Yeah, but saying that, Scott, there is a big contrast that I've noticed between your work and the work of other musicians that have gone into the visual art, and their work, some of which I'm extremely fond of, Miles Davis, people like that, beautiful painters.
Yeah.
It tends to be a very extroverted, large canvases, acrylic paints, let's just get it on there,
Slap it on.
Slap it on, don't need a roller, bring me the bucket. But your work is micro-fine detail, pencil work, very sharp pencil, as well, like a hard pencil.
You have to have a good pencil sharpener and an eraser.
An eraser. Yeah, the power of edit. I'm seeing this real contrast. It speaks to me of an abnormal level of focus, almost a hypervigilance in the state of mind, and also an extraordinary facility of fine motor skills.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I get on these, I call them art jags, where I'm looking at the pencil, hitting the paper, and I can't stop,
Really?
And I'm going, well, okay, I'm done, except for that bit over there. Okay, I got to do. Okay, now I'm done. No, I got to do that over there, and I can't stop doing it. Right? And it's almost like everything's kind of blocked out at that point. I remember the other day I was in there doing one, and the cat came in and went, wow, and I jumped like 3 feet. What happened there? Scared the hell out of me. I was so focused on what was going on. But I'm so glad that you actually saw that, right? Because I've tried to explain that, I did a lot of these out on the road, but I couldn't finish them out on the road because of that kind of sort of fine detail you're talking about. I could get the shape of what I was trying to get and get a lot of that shape out on the road, but to do all the, the fine, like you're saying, sharpened pencil or a number one ink pen or whatever, it takes a kind of a steady hand. So, and you don't want to be thinking about, oh, geez, I got an interview in a half an hour here, or I got to go to sound check or something like that. It just kind of blows the concentration, right? So that's what I would do. I would start numerous pictures out on the road, get them to a certain point, stick them in the folder, maybe start on something different a few days later, but take them all home, where it's just kind of peace and quiet, and there were no external kind of things going on in your life, and I could really concentrate on it. But that's great. I'm glad you focused in on that.
I like this toy.
Ooh, hey, you want another?
It's all right.
I'll have another glass of water, thank you very much.
And can I get another
Cappuccino? Right. No.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now then.
Oh, what's the second?
Curiosity.
Yeah. Oh, curiosity.
Which to me feels almost like a mandala. This sort of almost cyclic feel to it, like it's never ending.
Okay, I love that. I love that description. This is really my absolute total love of science fiction and what could actually be out there.
Right.
I saw years and years ago, I saw this program about the stars, right? And there's one scientist calculated there must be 100,000 billion stars out there, or trillion, 100,000 trillion stars out there, which got me to thinking, well, our sun has, what do we got, like 6 planets that rotate around our sun?
Well, jury's out. It was 9, and then it went down to 8, and then, it sort of bobs into
but multiple planets.
That's right.
Circulate our sun, right? So out of 1,000 trillion suns, there's got to be the same sort of amount of planets out there that are circling those suns, right? And now you're talking about 400,000 trillion planets, right? And to think that we're it. We're the only sentient beings in the whole of the cosmos. We're it. And I just thought, how depressing is that? And talk about pressure,
I know what you mean. I was talking to an astrophysicist.
Well, you go from dumbass rock star to an astrophysicist. Wow, you do travel.
I do. And she told me something that blew my mind. Two of the rarest things in the universe: wood.
Okay. Wow.
And shit.
Okay. Those are two weird things to be the rarest things.
I know, but if you think about it, right, wood, it's an organism, the tree that we only know so far exists on this planet, and it's in diminishing, and in diminishing supply. Mm-hmm. So there's carbon-based fiber, lovely stuff. And then shit, well, to have something that has been passed through the digestive system of a carbon-based organism makes it, I mean, it's not exactly a valuable commodity for us, but it's certainly, in terms of a universal viewpoint, almost impossibly rare. Like the chances of shit existing in the universe.
That's something nobody actually ever thinks about, Well, we're the only planet that has shit on it.
Exactly.
Well, possibly.
As far as we know.
Right.
Yeah, and ever since I had that conversation, I've been left to deal with this, and now I'm leaving it with you.
Thank you very much. Now I won't be able to sleep at night. So I like to think that curiosity is, these are the beings that, once again, they're just totally curious about us, why we're here, how do we exist, and I think if we stick with them, we can become allies.
Well, that would help, wouldn't it?
Right. You can imagine, I've got another picture called Apocalypse, where the world is just gone. The oceans are drained off, and there's a black cross behind it saying even God has left the building, kind of thing, right? But I'm thinking, okay, the Earth has gone to that point, and humanity gets in as many rockets as it can find and gets up into the outer atmospheres. And one guy says, "So, Frank, are you there?" Yeah, I'm here. So what's the plan now? I don't have any idea. I don't know where we're going. We don't know anybody out here, right?
We haven't got anyone else's phone numbers.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Deep shit.
So to actually, I like the idea of these other beings kind of being able to save us a bit. We know of a place that we can take you that you're going to thrive.
It's a lovely idea, isn't it?
Right?
It's getting increasingly necessary.
Well, I just like to think in those terms, that you think it's the end, but it's not. There's somebody out there that's going, oh, thank you. That's going to help because they actually believe in the human race, right? So that's what curiosity is all about, hoping that they are out there, they're curious enough about us to pay attention to what we think and how we live and what's going to happen at any certain point in history to us,
But going back to apocalypse, if you take the word from the original Greek, that means literally the revealing of something, revelation.
Now you see, I didn't know that. I got to rename the picture now?
You don't have to, but from that point of view, seeing this literally scorched earth, because I wasn't sure what the imagery was. I didn't know if it was a brain, if it was something from the video game Dead Space, or if it was...
Oh, and I love that game too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. No, you see there's like tumors trying to break out of the Earth's core in several different places. There's these massive worms who are just on the edge of just completely hollowing out the planet Earth. And as you can see, the oceans are now because we've lost gravity, so the oceans now are just dripping off the sides, and it's not going to be too much longer before it's just this dead space, dead dirt ball, and that's all it's going to be, right? So that's why we need curiosity, our buddies out there, to save our asses.
You have lived a life on the fretboard, perhaps with an intensity and vividness of colour that few people have. What has that meant to you, Scott?
Well, to be quite honest, it's made it so I was free to really express myself in kind of any way that I wanted to. I know there's probably a lot of people out there who were like me, say 3.5 years ago. They don't want to show anybody anything, because they don't have the confidence or whatever. I think through playing, guitar and multiple albums that we've recorded and written together, through all the world tours that you do, your confidence gets built up pretty good. I don't mean like the asshole kind of confidence, but
well, it's an important distinction.
Well,
isn't it? Because there's a lot of that.
Nobody likes an asshole, right? So I think what music did for me was really bring me out of myself, so I could actually, talk to people on the same level, because they liked what I did, and in turn, I can turn around and look at them and like what they did, or not. There's always that opinion that you can have and not feel that you're, being, put down or whatever.
Sure.
So I think that's really what music has done for me, is made it so I could actually just stretch out and not worry about it. Also make money. But that's about it, really. If you're, any good at what you do, it's a real confidence builder for the rest of your life. Well, I did this, and I jumped out in front of 100,000 people. If I can do that, I can certainly, fry an egg or whatever.
Well, Scott Gorham, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and so good to see you, man.
I've had a lot of fun. I hope I didn't make too big a fool of myself, but it was really good to hook up with you again, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to you for listening. Join me next time for a chat with superstar auctioneer Claire Toll-Moyer of Bonhams, London, who's been responsible for the sale of iconic instruments used by Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Slash, Ian Curtis, and many more. Life on the Fretboard is a Michael Watts production for Fretboard Journal. The theme is my original track, which I decided to call Life on the Fretboard, in a blinding flash of inspiration. Drums by Mr. Dan Weston, guitars and other stringed things were all by me, and the artwork was by Michael Johnson. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay tuned.